So, how's everybody? Today, we're in DC, have a conversation with a individual that's doing a lot of work related to economic development. But before we go there, let's talk about the current state of African Americans in America so you can understand the importance of the organization. Our title is Black Economic Crisis. And why is it a crisis? This generation of Black people will be the first generation that will not leave any wealth for the next generation that's coming up. Black people spend over $1.3 billion a year. That makes Black people collectively the eighth richest nation in the world. However, and this is predicted by those who are in economic development, by 2053, Blacks will have little or no wealth as a group and will be considered second-class citizens. Why is this going on? Black people are hardwired to be consumers. It makes us feel good. And here's why. Black people watch 10 hours a day and 72 hours a week of commercial and TV. Add that to the fact that Black people watch 40% more TV than any other group. In Hillsborough County, which Tampa is located, Black and brown people make up 50% of the population, yet we account for only 5% of economic growth. So that being said, I just want to give you the contents of why this conversation we have today is so important. So Ron, would you please introduce yourself, give us a little bit about your background, give us why you do what you do, and give us a little bit of information about why you started this organization.
Well, thank you, Michael, for inviting me to share in conversation with you today. And certainly I'm in agreement with you. Black community is in crisis. And I'll share my perspective on that crisis as we engage more in the conversation. But again, my name is Ron Hantz. I'm the founder and executive director of the Network for Developing Conscious Communities. We're a network organization built on building out the framework for Black-led cooperatives, Black-led organizations that engage in community development, be it arts, be it physical development, be it in the space of financial management. We've been in existence 8 years now, we've been focused on again building the capacity and sustainability of Black-led organizations throughout the United States. So that's who we are. We run a co-op academy that's geared towards educating our community about the importance of being a collective community, working together. We host on an annual basis at least one convening a year, focused on building out the capacity of Black-led organizations. And we also do a webinar series called the Black Community Development, where we explore issues around what it takes to build and sustain our communities as a collective.
So Ron, what's your background?
Well, Michael, my background, well, I would start with my undergrad degree because my undergrad degree did not prepare me for this work.
Yes.
Yeah, no. Some aspects of it I've tied to my undergrad, but really, I spent the last 30 years in community development, working for nonprofits around building affordable housing, creating small business tracks for small businesses, doing a lot of work around building out sustainability in terms of community platforms. So yeah, so that's what I've been doing for the last 30 years, Mike.
Now, Ron, you also had some connection to HUD. Is that correct?
Well, I did an internship with HUD, but other than that, years ago, as I was working on my master's in city planning, um, no, I haven't had any really relationships with the agency other than as a consumer advocating on the behalf of Black-led organizations.
So, Ron, what made you get back into this? My understanding is that you was retired and you decided to jump back into the mix. What
Well,
that put you back?
well, Michael, I was never retired. Let me just say that I was never retired, but I did sort of re-enter the space in a different space than it was when I left. When I started to curtail my work in the space, and so this organization is built on developing conscious principles around community development, and I really believe that it's going to take a mind shift and a spiritual shift to really engulf the work that we need to do in our communities. It's yes, resources for physical development are needed, but I think more than anything else, we're going to have to build out tangible ways to connect our community culturally, spiritually, and consciously.
Talking about conscious, share with us the 7 principles or the 7 steps of the principles for community development.
If you can enlarge that, Michael, I can read it.
Okay, let me enlarge that. Give me a second. Let me go to see where do I give me 1 second while I try to zoom this so other people can see it as well, because it's very important. Now, if I could only find out 1 second, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, is that good? Or should I do some more?
No, that's fine.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Share what's wrong.
Well, we've come up with 7 conscious platforms around what we see as important steps in terms of community development. And first one is when promoting redevelopment in communities of color and on behalf of communities of color, work openly and fairly with those communities to develop action plans for increasing collective asset wealth and equity ownership. Far too often, too much is done behind the scenes and not done up front. And so when it's not done intentionally in a transparent way, it's done in a way that really takes away from the community building and that could really enhance the feasibility of doing the work in our communities. So I always say that to promote community development and community color, there must be fairly, openly dialogue for increasing collective asset wealth and equity ownership. Develop a defined partnership. You know, too many white-led groups don't feel like they need to develop a partnership with Black-led organizations to which they do the work in their communities. Well, I say that, you know, to have equity participation, there must be a responsibility on behalf of all stakeholders to build out frameworks for partnerships that can enhance the work. Determine a conceptual stage or project or program implementing strategy for workforce development. I think that at the onset, when you decide that you're going to do a project in the community, I think the first thing you have to think of is not only how is the project going to benefit the community, and who's going to benefit by the resources that project may generate. So you want to ensure that there is a workforce training component attached to work, that there is an effort to engage local businesses of color and community residents in the process. Fourthly, promote localized concentration of multifamily and single-family rental housing units in underserved neighborhoods. I feel like right now, particularly with the low-income housing tax credit program, that there's been a focus on locating a lot of those projects in low and moderate income neighborhoods. And I think that if you're going to get the best utilization of the program, that you have to create income diversity. And so income diversity comes with neighborhood diversity. And so you have to look at planting seeds of doing a multifamily housing, not only in low to moderate income neighborhoods, but also other upward neighborhoods as well. Number five, develop a diversity plan for multifamily and single family. And again, I think you have to develop a income diversity plan that addresses the income diversity that needs to take place, because not only does it create income diversity, but it also brings into context cultural diversity. So you have a learning that takes place among people of different cultural aspects. Multifamily and single family rental housing should be considered a secondary housing choice, because I think that the first housing choice should be around home ownership, and particularly in neighborhoods where you see the ownership is less than 40%. And number 7 is develop mindful and intentional practices to ensure feasibility of transparency of asset ownership and over time to local community ownership. I think that's so important, whether it's a low-income housing project, whether it's a project that's being done outside of the realm of that. I think that there should be some avenue for moving that project into control and ownership of community.
So, Ron, you mentioned about the academy. Let's take a look at that. Give me 1 second while we bring that up. Because the change to everything comes through training. Can you give us a little bit of information about the academy?
Well, the academy is a 12-week academy based on educating and uplifting those who are interested in learning about cooperatives. And it's an introduction. And so we take folks through the introduction phase of learning about the history of Black cooperatives. We share with them the legalese around what it takes to legally form a cooperative. We bring into conversations some of the business acrimonies that folks need to learn about in terms of knowledge about building out a business, how to do a business plan, how to do financial forecasting, how to do marketing. And then we bring into the context just some dialogue regarding how this format of cooperatives can address racial inequalities. And so we bring that into conversation, as well as we have a session around grant writing as well, in terms of just instructing people how to pursue funding sources.
So talk about the 4 types of teams.
Well, there's a startup team which we focus on. We focus on the startups, and then there's the expanders, where members of existing cooperatives are looking at growing their cooperatives. There's converters who look at moving their work into other areas of cooperative work, and then of course the last is the developers, those that actually go out and develop cooperatives.
Ron, talk about why the Black economy. Why?
Well, I think it's important that we revisit our past history of what it took for us to sustain ourselves in this country. And so I think that from our perspective, the unison, the unifying work that comes with cooperatives are important, not only just for economic benefits, but also for cultural and spiritual and conscious efforts as well. So we feel like the quality of what we do, investing locally. We think that cooperatives are the way that we need to at least put some energy into establishing.
Okay, so something is coming up.
Yes.
Date is September the 17th through December the 3rd. Wow.
Yes.
That's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on. So Ron talks about focus on participation related to why people should register for these classes that we're going to be looking at in just 1 second.
Well, I think people need to register for the fact of informational gathering. It's nothing more than be able to gather information around the use and platform of cooperatives. And if they're looking at moving beyond that, I think that this Cooperative Academy offers them the breadth and opportunity to explore more readily what the role of cooperatives can be in their lives and the lives of others that they are working with. You know, I say this all the time, you know, there's nothing more pleasing, more beneficial to Black folks than when we work collectively together. And this Cooperative Academy is a testimony of that, of working collectively together.
Okay, so as you can see, this talks about what it's going to explore. It talks about the cost, which is right cheap, minimum $100 per group. Most of the training that you're going to be introduced to will probably cost you, if you was paying out your pocket, $5,000 and up, as opposed to the $100 that's coming up here. So let's look at some of the, and please take down the email and the website. Now, I know that people from around the country is going to be watching this workshop and watching this information right here. I want each of you to participate in this workshop and get all this information. So let's continue on with some of the things that's going to be going on. Ron, can you share with us some of the sections, topics that's going to be going on during this workshop and the date?
Well, first of all, we have, you know, the legal structure of cooperatives. So we have a young gentleman by the name of Julian Hill, who's a professor, a law professor at Georgia State University, and he'll be sharing, you know, the legalese around how to establish a cooperative. And so we also we have a session on building out the steering committee, and that steering committee is really important because if you're going to go down the route of developing a cooperative, you need to have like-minded people that believe in the idea, growing the idea. So we're going to talk about time, talent, treasures, and actually about building trust. Because one of the things that you'll find in any collective group is, particularly around Black folks, is that we have to dispel a lot of the notions that we can't work together. We have to dispel that. And so we have to build trusting relationships. And so this session of building your co-op steering committee is about building trust around collective effort. And of course, you know, we have one around organizing movement for building cooperatives, and we have one around cooperative management and governance and management. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I see you also have something on how to designing demographic, I'm getting that word, demographic, why am I getting that word so wrong? Help me out, Ron.
democratic.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. What is that about?
Well, cooperatives are democratic businesses. They operate on one person, one vote. And so you want to know that no matter how much you put in, you still don't get any more out of it than the next person. And so we want to just explore the conversation on democracy. What does it mean to be in a democratic process where you have one person, one vote, and what that means in terms of building out the platform for the group dynamics itself.
Okay, race and equity. Talk about that.
Well, again, we have to, and we can't dispel the racial component of this work, and nor can we walk away from the equity potential within this work. So there's a racial component that we explore through conversation, and there's an equity component that we explore as well in terms of building out ownership.
So, Ron, in the last 15, 20 years, what is better for us as a people, and what is worse, and what is the same?
Well, Michael, that's a very interesting question, because over the last 15 years, we've seen the decline in the Black community, and it goes back to your topic about crisis, and we are in crisis mode now. Even during the presidency of Barack Obama, we didn't get a lot of lifts in the Black community economically, and so I think it's important that we recognize some of the shortfalls and work on building out these new paradigms for the Black community. And one of those paradigms has to be built on spirituality and economic development. We have to build those two platforms out.
Perfect combination. Now, some other things that's going to be talked about is grant writing and mentoring exchange. Mentoring exchange among collaborative. Talk about that.
Well, mentoring exchange is just that we bring in other cooperatives to share with the group their experiences, be they good. Could you hold 1 second?
Okay.
Hello? Good. Deborah, can I call you back? I'm in a webinar right now. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
No problem. The one thing I can say about you, Ron, you're always on the go. Always on the go. And that's so very important. And that's why I think that what you're doing and what the organization you're doing is so critical. We talk about the crisis in Black America. And unless we start doing things about it, and that's why this is all about changing that narrative. Let me see if we have any more. And it's on the 7th.
No. That's for.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was the date. What you looking at now, folks?
Actually, the date is starting on we moved the date, had to move the date back. So the 17th of this weekend.
Okay.
This Saturday when we start the academy.
Okay. So, Ron, what can a person do? They hand this right now and they say, yeah, something I want to do. How can they be a member? Is it a membership? Can they join as a member? How can they become involved and engage?
Well, there's a membership link on our website where people can register as members. But to get engaged in this cooperative work, you're going to need to move very quickly because we're starting this weekend. And so there's a lot of information that we have to share with people that are coming into the door at the last moment.
Okay.
So if you're interested in participating in the Co-op Academy, then I advise you to get your application in now. And you can get it on the website.
And I'm going to be sending a link to that website as well. Folks, we're in a crisis economically. Every group has a group that represents them. Very few groups are representing truly African American. Here's a group that truly represent not only the persons at the top, but also those that are at the bottom. Any closing remarks, Ron, before we end this current presentation?
Well, I thank you, Michael, for opening this dialogue with us around our cooperative academy. We think it's important that we build out sustainable businesses, that we look at how we can collectively bring people together to share in business ownership. We have a lot of returning citizens coming back into our communities that will need economic opportunities. And so we think that this cooperative model does give a lot of a lift to those individuals who are returning citizens coming back in our community. Also, too, in terms of just individuals out there who have ideas. And so you can build a cooperative model around any idea. So I would share with people the importance of building out this economic thrust, because it's well needed and most definitely needed in the Black community.
Now, Ron, you're currently located in both DC and in Maryland.
Well, we're not physically located in Maryland, Michael. We just went through the process of acquiring a property in Baltimore, which we're looking to rehab into the Ella Baker Women's Business Center. So we hope to have that up and running in 2023.
Good.
But other than that, we're primarily focused our work out of the DC office here in Washington, DC.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Economic development for females is a necessity. So what would these services that, when it opens up in 2023, what services will it provide?
Well, we hope to house 5 businesses in the building, along with us as well. And then we hope to have a drop-in center where people can drop in, hook up to Wi-Fi and get their work done as well. And we'll have forums in there, discussion forums around small business topics as well.
Okay, Ron, I want to really appreciate you for taking your time out to share with the folks what you do. I've interviewed a lot of folks, but I think that of all the ones I've interviewed, you was the one that I was really, really trying to get, because we need to change the narrative on what's going on in African American communities, especially as it relates to economic development. I mentioned earlier in the presentation, by 2053, African Americans, in terms of wealth, we're going to be second-class citizens. Right now, this generation will not leave any wealth behind.
Yeah.
To change that narrative.
Yes. So true. That's what the statistics are looking and telling us.
So Ron, thanks again for taking your time out your busy schedule to share with us what you do. We're going to be doing this on all of our formats. I'm asking everybody that sees this that you share it. And you share it with everybody, be it New York, Chicago, Philly, wherever you are, you connect to me, please share this so we can start changing the narrative. Again, Ron, I want to thank you again for giving us an opportunity today to talk about what's so important in Black America. And
thank you, Michael.